Valerie.
I have an idea.
Brave.
Who is my equal? wins.
The Chancellor
Brave.
has arrived.
Who is my equal?
Hello, seeing double. Welcome, seeing double, welcome. Greetings. Greetings. Hello, seeing double. Positive spin. Justice. 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 Justice! 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 Seeing double! Reflect! 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 Welcome! Seeing double! Patriot Mirror! Too true! Seeing double! Hello! Hello! Justice! Justice! Reflect! Unsant of the Governor! Welcome! Seeing double? Hello! Seeing double? Seeing double? Seeing double? Seeing double? Justice! 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 Patriot Mirror! Too true! Justice! Hello! Seeing double? Patriot Mirror! Patriot Mirror! Too true! Welcome! Welcome! Greetings! Greetings! Seeing double! Justice!
Midori, it's an honor to fight you. Brave. Who is my equal? Dragon Form! Human Form! Dragon Form! Dragon Buster! Talon Swoop! Dragon Buster! Dragon Buster! Human Form! Play fair! Play fair! Play fair! Play fair! Play fair! Play fair!
Yep. Hey. Whoa. Hey. Yep. 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 Whoa. Yep. Yep. Hey!
Dragon Buster! Dragon Buster! Human form! To Gray. Grave.
Justice! Who is my equal? Gotcha! Ha! One! One! Ha! One! Ha! Ha! 1, 2! 1, 2! Ha! True! Daggerfall! 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 Justice kick! Justice kick! Ha! Ha! Justice kick! Assist! Daggerfall! Daggerfall! Justice kick! Ha! Justice kick! Daggerfall! Justice kick! Assist! Gotcha! Ha-ha! Assist! 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 Final Arbiter! Final Arbiter! Ha! 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 True! Ha! Daggerfall! Daggerfall! Truth!
Argagar Garg is a water shaman and patient fish, known in his circles for his wise advice, even though outsiders wrongly view the fish folk as a savage and violent race, but they couldn't be more wrong. Argagarg is a zoner, a keep-away character. His long-range attacks and water waves keep his opponents far away, while his poison ticks away at their life. Let's start with his normal attacks. His forward A attack reaches across the entire screen, and you can cancel it to special moves. It's a great zoning tool. His back A punches are short range but very high priority. Have the courage to use this small but effective attack to hit jumping opponents and keep them off of you. His neutral A punch reaches really far, and while it doesn't have the high priority of his back A, the range makes up for it. If you counter hit a jumper, that is, hit them out of the startup of their attack, they'll fall on their back, and you can combo to forward A for 2 damage. Also keep in mind that Argagarg can cancel all 3 of his ground normal attacks into specials. Jumping A is another long-range attack, this time diagonally downward. Argagarg's flying fish moves are done with the B button. He can press B for a blue fish made of water, or hold B for a purple, poisoned version. The poison version is central to his character, so let's cover that first. The poison fish is really large for starters. It also passes through all obstacles. Enemy projectiles or other objects can't stop it. And it's unblockable. Yes, really, it's unblockable. When it hits, it poisons the opponent. They don't take any damage immediately, but they'll eventually take 2 damage from this poison unless they hit you. If they hit Argagarg while they're poisoned, they'll be cured. While they're poisoned, there's an icon of a flask that moves across their life bar. That shows how long until the poison will take away that particular hit point. Notice that if the opponent gets knocked down, or if they put Argagarg into block stun by forcing him to block a move, the flask will momentarily pause its countdown. That's minor though. The main thing to understand here is that the poison fish's unblockable, unstoppable nature forces the opponent to act. They can't just sit there and do nothing. You can also stack multiple poison fish to poison more and more of their life bar. They could be on the hook to lose 6 or 8 hit points if you can keep them away for that long. And that brings us to the drawback of this move. If they hit you within a few seconds of getting poisoned, then the poison didn't actually do anything. You have to be able to keep them away long enough for the poison to tick to harness Argagarg's full potential. Also, the poison fish has another unusual drawback. It doesn't cause any hit stun. The opponent can simply hit you while you're doing it. They can walk straight through it, get hit by it, but then hit you back, so be careful to only use it when it's safe. You get the poison fish by holding down the B button, but if you press and release the B button, you'll get the blue flying fish. This one is made of water, so it doesn't actually deal any damage at all. It does splash opponents on hit and stuns them for so long that you can usually hit them with your forward A attack for 1 damage. And even if you don't hit them with that, it's still valuable to waste their time with the blue fish if they're poisoned. Argagarg's C special move is Rushing River. He summons a river of water that pushes opponents back. Again, this is helpful to waste their time if they're poisoned, and to keep them away from Argagarg regardless of whether they're poisoned or not. He's better off fighting from a distance. While the river is out, you can press C again to summon an orange fish that jumps out of the river. You can hold back, neutral, or forward during that C button press to get 3 different angles of this fish. It's a real fish, not made of water, so it does actual damage. The neutral version of this is great for keeping away opponents and hitting them if they try to jump in. The back version is good at hitting jumpers who are much closer to you, and the forward version is good for applying some pressure. You can also summon these orange fish even while you're doing another move, or while you're in block stun. There's a bunch of trickery you can do with this, on both the air and the ground. Air B is his staff drill. It's a pretty good priority attack that can be used defensively if you jump back into it, or offensively if you jump forward into it. You usually can't combo after it, but you can at least try to pressure afterwards. Air C is his Sparkling Bubble. This lets him travel horizontally through the air, and you can hold left or right as you initiate it to travel either direction. During your travels, you can press C again to pop the bubble. The pop is invulnerable after a short startup. You can use this bubble even after doing your jumping A punch. That lets you hit the opponent and then back away to safety, or pressure them and threaten a pop if you're feeling risky. You can also combine the bubble with the ground C's orange fish. Do Rushing River, then immediately jump in Sparkling Bubble. As you travel, pressing C will summon the river's orange fish. Then you can choose to pop the bubble with another C button press if you want. For an even more powerful bubble, Argagarg's ground super is Bubble Shield. This summons a bubble around him that you can pop by pressing S again. While the bubble is popping, Argagarg can still move around, block, do attacks, etc. The pop even moves forward with him if you walk. Another really powerful aspect of Bubble Shield is that you can pop it even if you're in block stun. So you can block a move, and while you're stuck in block pose for a moment, you can pop the bubble to hit the opponent out of their attack. Plus, there's another powerful property of Bubble Shield. When you initiate it, the game is briefly paused. This lets you see what the opponent is doing, and it allows you to do the correct response on reaction. It's especially good to do as you get it from a knockdown when the opponent has you in a mix-up. Another property to know about: while Bubble Shield is up, your Air Sea Sparkling Bubble is powered up too. It travels faster, and the pop of this super bubble has a huge invulnerable hitbox. You'll fall to the ground faster after popping it too. While you're falling from this air super pop, you can do another air move before you land. Try popping the powered up bubble in the air, and then air A for a combo, or pop and then back air C to run away. That said, you'll use up your Bubble Shield this way. That can be worth it since you're building up super meter this whole time anyway. Argagarg's air super, Giant Fish, is straightforward to use because it does exactly what he generally wants to do: push the opponent away and waste their time. It's especially annoying when he combines it with his ground B and C special moves to keep them away. Let's look more closely at some pressure sequences Argagarg can do to keep the opponent busy. When you do Rushing River, you can then spit a Flying Fish right afterwards, then summon the river's Orange Fish. Follow up with forward A, Flying Fish again, and then repeat the sequence. Or you can open with the forward A long punch, cancel to Flying Fish, Rushing River, Flying Fish, Orange Fish, and then Air Super. You can then long punch them before and after the Giant Fish hits for a great combo, and then keep up the pressure afterwards. Even on block, this wastes a lot of time and lets your poison damage tick. Argagarg is a difficult character to play, not because doing any of his moves is hard, but because there's so much he can do, and it will all fall apart unless you can zone them long enough for poison to do something. And you have to really know how to get out of trouble with brave uses of back A, Bubble Shield, or just a lot of blocking when you're getting pressured. And you have to take control of the match with maximum obnoxiousness when you're far away. Philosophically, Argagarg believes in defeating opponents through patience, and if you actually have the patience to learn to play him, then you will truly understand him, as his fellow fish do. General Onimaru is a master tactician in charge of the Flagstone Army. He's physically imposing and demands discipline from his soldiers. He's also adept at personal combat, where he wields an enormous sword. Onimaru's moves and movement are generally very slow, but extremely powerful. He deals a ton of damage and uses armor to power through hits to create favorable trades. Onimaru has a unique mechanic called Guard Crush. Normally, when opponents block 3 special or super moves, they lose a point of life, which we call block damage. But against Onimaru, rather than taking block damage, they get hit for real. To help opponents know they're in danger of this, whenever they block 2 such moves, a shield icon with a crack in it appears over their character, indicating they're in danger of a Guard Crush. If they try to block a 3rd move capable of block damage, that icon shatters and they get hit rather than blocking. Onimaru's Guard Crush is even more threatening because all his blade attacks are capable of dealing block damage, even 2 of his normal moves, Back A and Forward A. Back A is a sweep, while Forward A is a deadly overhead slice that deals 2 damage. His neutral A doesn't deal block damage, but it's his fastest attack. All of these normal attacks can cancel to special moves. Onimaru's B special attack, Tactical Slice, is a poke with huge range that deals a whopping 2 damage. The part where he spins around is invulnerable to projectiles, so he can step around them to hit the opponent. The recovery of this move puts him in a special stance where he can't block, but he can do 3 different enders: Shoulder Ram, Spirit Fire, or Parry. Press A for a fast Shoulder Ram that gives frame advantage on block, or press B for a slow attack with big range that has an active hitbox for a long time due to the samurai spirits it summons. Those spirits can destroy projectiles too. Or press C for a parry that's invulnerable to strikes and projectiles, and that automatically hits back if Onimaru gets hit. You can also hold the C button down to extend the duration of your parry attempt. It lasts pretty long this way. The parry is important because threatening it makes the opponent afraid to attack during the recovery of your tactical slice. If you know they will hesitate, then you don't need to parry at all, and you can apply pressure with either the shoulder ram or the Spirit Fire follow-up. Another thing to know about the special stance after his B is that you can backdash or forward dash, but only once. To dash from the stance, you either tap forward forward or back for a backdash, or you can hold forward plus jump or back plus jump for a backdash. If you backdash, you'll end the stance and be able to block. If you forward dash, you'll still be in the stance and able to threaten to parry. Onimaru's walk speed is so slow that he actually travels more quickly across the screen by doing B, then forward dash, then shoulder ram, than if he walked or jumped forward. Onimaru's forward A, which does 2 damage, can cancel into his B special, which also does 2 damage, but usually this isn't a true combo. If the opponent happens to get counter hit by the forward A, meaning hit out of the start of their move, then they'll glow red, be in hit stun longer, and these 2 moves actually will combo for a total of 4 damage. That's so devastating that you can fish for it and hope you catch the opponent in the start of a move. If they block, you can still do the 2 move sequence and then mix up which ender you'll do from Tactical Slice. Another technique to keep in mind is if you're close, you can pressure the opponent with B, A for shoulder ram, neutral A hilt bash, then repeat. You can't keep it up forever, and they can do a fast or invulnerable move to get out, but it's still a good pressure tool. His C special, Divide and Conquer, is a 2-hit move that's armored. The armor is really important because it allows you to attack even if the opponent is doing a faster move. You might get hit, but you'll hit them too. You can use the move on prediction against projectiles from far away, and you can use it as anti-air too. You'll sometimes even get both hits against the jumping opponent. His jumping A is a bunt that bounces him on hit or block. He can bounce up to 3 times for 3 hits. That's not a combo, but it can be tricky and confusing. Although he's often punishable, the opponent doesn't know if you'll do 1, 2, or 3 attacks. His jumping B, Spirit Slice, is a really long-reaching horizontal attack. Its hitbox stays active for a really long time as the samurai spirits come out. This move can command the air-to-air game, but it also lets Onimaru come down on grounded opponents. He can even threaten it as he jumps over a projectile. The very beginning of Spirit Slice is a strike attack as the sword hits, but the rest of the active frames are classified as a projectile. That means the magical samurai heads can actually destroy enemy projectiles if they happen to intersect. It means that Rook's Air B vines can go through them too, but not through the beginning part where the sword itself hits. His jumping C, Helmbreaker, has him slam down to the ground. It's armored, so he'll keep going even if he gets hit once. This move does 2 damage on hit, but it can't actually hit the opponent until it lands. And though it has long recovery, you can cancel that recovery with an invulnerable Rising Sword by pressing C again. This makes the opponent hesitant to punish this move on block because they aren't sure if you have a Rising Sword waiting for them. You can vary the timing of when you Rising Sword to further trick them. Rising Sword doesn't usually combo after Helmbreaker unless the Helmbreaker was a counter hit. In that case, you can combo easily if you're close enough. Onimaru's ground super is Martial Law. It's a huge 2 damage sword slash that's invulnerable until just before it hits. It has 2 other important properties too. First, it's fast. It's twice as fast as his other pokes, so he can punish things or interrupt things with it that he otherwise couldn't. Second, you can hold down the S button when you do it to charge up and perform a level 2 or level 3 version. These versions are not invulnerable, but the level 2 version reaches even farther and it does 3 damage, while the level 3 version reaches full screen, does 4 damage, and is unblockable. This super has many incredible uses. It gets you out of trouble. It reaches through projectiles, and even if you get hit, you deal your damage first, so maybe you'll win the round just before you die. Sometimes getting hit out of it lets you combo forward A for 4 damage total. You can land the super after a successful parry. You can use it as anti-air. You can whiff punish things. The level 3 unblockable has a lot of uses too. When you get a knockdown from the parry, or from Air B, or from a counter hit Air C, you can start charging to level 3 and threaten to do an unblockable as the opponent gets up. You can also threaten it if the opponent commits to a slow move from far, or even if they just hesitate and don't know what to do. His air super, Clockwork Soldiers, summons 2 robot soldiers that advance toward the enemy. They each have 2 hit points, so it's pretty difficult for the opponent to deal with them and Onimaru at the same time. He has a lot of potential to guard crush them during this super. A single attack from the opponent can hit both Onimaru and one of the Clockwork Soldiers, so Onimaru has to be careful in how he pressures. Try to set up deadly guard crushes while also baiting the opponent to do something dumb. Onimaru is somewhat slow and deliberate, but he's also incredibly damaging with his 2 damage attacks, 4 damage unblockable super, and unblockable guard crush setups. He usually wants to stay at mid-range and rely on his high-priority sword attacks as well as his armored moves to blow through the attacks of faster, weaker characters. If you know the enemy and know your Onimaru tools, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Jefferson DeGray is a lawyer who fights for justice. His primary motivation is exposing the truth, and his primary physical skill is punching. DeGray was granted unnaturally long life by Persephone, and she left behind her ghostly friend to watch over DeGray and make sure he keeps up his quest of fighting tyrants. DeGray's gameplay isn't about rushdown exactly, and it isn't about zoning either. It's about frame trapping, which means making the opponent attack at the wrong times and punishing them for it greatly. Whenever you hit an opponent out of the startup of their moves in Fantasy Strike, you get a counter hit that stuns them slightly longer. But DeGray in particular has a special property. His counter hits cause much more dramatic effects, like wall bounces and ground bounces. DeGray's B button special is Counterpoint Step. He quickly dashes back, then forward again, and he can end the move 3 different ways by pressing either A, B, or C. A ends with Daggerfall Thrust, a punch that's very safe on block and gives a lot of frame advantage, which you can see from the blue symbol that appears on block. B ends with his powerful Tyrant Crusher, which does 2 damage. If you counter hit with it, it wall bounces the opponent and you can Tyrant Crusher again. He even says a different voice line if you do. Ending with C does Justice Kicks, an invulnerable attack that's unsafe on block. DeGray's C button sends his ghost out to grab the opponent. If she grabs them, she won't do any damage, but they're stunned briefly so DeGray can hit them himself. A good technique is to send out the ghost, then Counterpoint Step, and simply react to what happens. If the ghost grabs, then Tyrant Crusher. If not, then end with a safe punch or with no ender at all. Air C also summons the ghost and can be used in similar ways to the ground C. You can also do some cross-up trickery with the air version. DeGray's neutral A punch can combo to a second hit if you press A twice. If the ghost grabs the opponent when you're nearby, this is a good way to get 2 quick damage. Or you can punch and then cancel the second punch into the ghost summon to keep up the pressure. His forward A is a forward-moving shoulder attack that he can cancel into ground specials. His back A ground pound has really long range, and on counter hit, it sends the opponent flying so you can Tyrant Crusher them. You can actually combo his shoulder attack and then Tyrant Crusher if the ground pound counter hit, which lets him do 4 damage mid-screen, but you have to really work to set up that situation. DeGray's Air B can cancel to a second hit if you press the button twice. This move gives him a lot of mobility and it lets him chase down opponents if he's far away. He can jump in and go for 2 damage with it, and on block, opponents aren't sure if he'll do 1 or 2 attacks. As an air-to-air move, it's difficult to juggle for 2 damage with it, but on counter hit, it is possible. DeGray's ground super is a parry move called Ghost Riposte. If an opponent attacks into it with a strike, he'll automatically reverse it into a powerful 2-fisted punch for 2 damage. Opponents can throw DeGray if he tries to go for this, and they can hit him with projectiles, but the threat of Ghost Riposte can make it difficult for some characters to attack him. DeGray's air super, Final Arbiter, is a fast, full-screen punch of justice. He can use it to get in, or to sneak in a point of damage that he couldn't otherwise get, but the real dream is if you counter hit with it. In that case, it does a whopping 3 damage, so the fun of this move is fishing for that moment when you think the opponent will do something, and then counter hit them out of it. Playing DeGray has a different rhythm than other characters. He wants to counterpoint step a lot and send out his ghost a lot. He's fishing for a moment when the opponent does the wrong thing so he can suddenly do a lot of damage. As a lawyer, DeGray will tell you that his opponents are bound to make a misplay sooner or later, and when they do, he'll be ready. Cyrus Quince is the Chief Magistrate of Flagstone. He's a charismatic, duly elected leader who has only the best interests of the people in mind. There are those, such as the lawyer DeGray, who say that Quince's reputation is built entirely on lies and illusions, but they're just dissidents and criminals. Quince is a tricky, deceptive character. He uses mix-ups so the opponent doesn't know how to block, and illusions so they don't know what to attack. Though he may seem slightly weak when the opponent is wise to his illusions, his power level skyrockets for brief moments when he can make his illusions real. He requires a lot of knowledge to play well. Quince's B special is High Standard, a forward lunging kick. Afterwards, an illusion of Quince automatically appears above the opponent and dashes downward to do his Low Standard. The illusion can't hit or be hit though, it's just for confusion. But if you press the B button twice, then the real Quince performs the High Standard, then Low Standard, and the illusion becomes the Quince that stood still between those moves. Low Standard is a cross-up, so the opponent will have to block it the other way, but they aren't sure which Quince is real, so if they try to block Low Standard, they might end up walking into your attack or throw. Quince's neutral A is a simple punch, but a very important one. It's his fastest hitting ground move, and it can combo into his B attack. Also, if he does BB and the Low Standard cross-up hits, he can then combo that to A and then B for 3 damage while keeping the opponent in his mix-up blender. His back A normal attack is Truth Geyser, a ground pound that erupts a fountain of coins because money is the ultimate truth. This move launches on hit, allowing for a juggle. It's easy to juggle with his forward A lunging punch. The sequence back A, forward A, cancel to B will deal 2 damage and cause the B to hit very meaty. That's an unfortunate fighting game term, meaning that the very end of the attack will touch them, and it makes you especially safe afterwards. His forward A is also notable in that you can hold the button down to send out an illusion to fool the opponent. They might try to react to it, but the real Quince is waiting to punish. It's fast, so it's low risk to throw out that illusion here and there. Quince's C special move, Dodge the Question, can get him out of trouble. He's invulnerable from the very first frame of this attack as he splits into 2 images. This lets him slip out of sticky situations as the expert politician he is. You control which Quince is the real one by holding left or right. After the split, he will automatically perform his Righteous Zeal attack, and so will the illusion of him. If the opponent expects this move, they can punish it, but it can be pretty confusing which is which. Quince's jumping attacks are a punch, his B button positive spin, and his C button mirror called alternative facts. There's a lot going on with his positive spin move. It's generally unsafe, but there's a lot he can do with it. First, he can hold down the button to make an illusion of it. The real Quince will continue his jump arc when you do this, so you can create a positive spin illusion, then come down with a real punch. Next, after doing either a real or illusion version of this move, he can do another action in the air. So he can do air B twice in a row, or an illusion B and then a real B, or a real B and then an illusion B. That sequence is especially useful because it leaves him safe afterwards. His air C mirror can hit the opponent for 0 damage, which is still useful because it puts them in hit stun and generally gets in their way. It can also reflect projectiles. That's pretty useful, but you can also put it over their head anytime you get a chance, then start pressuring. Another use of the mirror is placing it after doing air B, just to get it in their way. You can even set up tricky situations like knocking them down with air B, placing the mirror behind them, and then threaten with a lunge punch. If it hits, the mirror's hit stun allows you to combo a punch into B for 3 damage. You can also just stay back, place a mirror, and do some illusion air B moves just to give the opponent the opportunity to react in a stupid way. Quince's ground super, Patriot Mirror, gives him access to a huge amount of power if he can pull it off. The mirror itself can reflect projectiles, and while it doesn't do any damage, if it hits, it then triggers a time-limited mode called 2 Truths. A blue meter counts down, showing how much time you have left in this mode. In the mode, all his illusions are real. That means they can actually hit the opponent. If the opponent hits an illusion, it will go away, but the true Quince won't take any damage. During Two Truths, your Lunge Punch becomes a rapid-fire lockdown. It will only combo twice, but it's still pretty good. His Air B becomes a huge, slow-moving projectile that he can do twice each jump. And pressing Ground B once for High Standard gives you the benefit of a real illusion low standard without the true Quince having to spend time in that animation. That lets him do some powerful combos, mix-ups, and lockdowns. Another note about Patriot Mirror, even if they block it, the mirror won't go away until they block it 3 times. That gives you a chance to mix them up with BB while they're stuck blocking. Quince's Air Super, Consent of the Governed, is a full-screen flying punch. Regardless of if it hits or not, 2 illusionary Quinces appear to fight alongside you. They do random moves and create a lot of confusion. Consent of the Governed is invulnerable at the start, which ensures you'll win any air-to-air battles. This is especially important after your B special, High Standard. That puts opponents in a mix-up where they don't know if you'll attack or throw from the front, or cross up from behind, and they might try to jump out to avoid that mix-up. If they do, you can beat their jump with your invulnerable Air Super. You can even use the Air Super as a way to get in safely and start your mix-ups since it's safe on block. If your Air Super counter hits, meaning hits the opponent out of the start of their move, it has the special property of giving you full super meter. It also causes a ground bounce that lets you combo for 3 damage or combo into your Patriot Mirror ground super. Your dream scenario is if you can be in Two Truths mode from Patriot Mirror while also having illusions out from your Consent of the Governed Air Super. The 2 ways to do that are to counter hit with the Air Super, then combo into the ground super, as we just showed, or you can start off by hitting with the ground super, then Yomi counter a throw to get full super meter, then immediately Air Super. Either way, if you pull off this dream scenario, you'll be fighting alongside multiple illusionary copies of Quince that can actually hit the opponent, while still being able to spawn illusions from your other moves that can really hit the opponent too. It's ridiculous. Quince sometimes has to stay back and just place mirrors and poke with Air B cancelled into Illusion Air B while he looks for openings. When he really gets going though, he can put his opponent on tilt as they question how and what they're even supposed to block. He loves being in Two Truths mode as much as he can because he loves honesty and truth. And why just have one truth when you can have 2?